I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. It's always our favorite time of the year when we have students here, so thank you so much for being with us tonight. We have a couple of orders of business. First, I'll ask for motions for minutes, please. Beth, Jen, questions or comments? All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Warrants, Jen and Jenny. Jen first. Jen, questions or comments? All in favor? That carries unanimously. Also, Jillian, hello.
Hi.
Did you want to speak?
So, the past 2 months, I guess, it's been 2 months.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, a couple weeks ago, DECA States happened, and I was blessed to be part of that group. We traveled to Rochester and competed, and we did have 3 students make it to the international competition in Atlanta, Jeremy being one of them. And then this past weekend we had the Shrek musical, and I actually attended twice. It was a great musical. I had a lot of friends in it, and it was just a great production, great cast. Bravo to the cast, crew, and backstage people. And the pit. And then we also had 2 sectional wins, the girls basketball team as well as the girls bowling team. So congrats to those. And yeah, that's all I have.
Great. Thank you so much.
On to me?
On to you.
Okay, well, I get to introduce our guests that are here. So March is Music in Our Schools Month, and I see 2 of our music teachers in the audience, Mr. Crystal and our cult, Mr. Greg Kane, our curriculum area lead teacher. And as you can see, we have some students here. It looks like they have some instruments in hand, and perhaps they're gonna wow us a little bit with their skills. So we're very blessed in the Canandaigua City School District to have such a wonderful music program from UPK all the way up to 12. We have teachers that care deeply about their students and providing them exceptional experiences. It's also, and I don't want to steal any of Mr. Kane's thunder, so maybe he's going to talk a little bit about this. Not only do we offer great musical experiences for our kids and their families and our own concerts, they often go into the community and perform for a variety of places, whether it's nursing homes or just community events, parades, things like that, just to bring their skill set and the joy of music to everyone within our community and beyond. And so when you go to a concert, there's a lot to be proud of because of these students, because of their teachers, because of their families who value music as well. So in honor of March being Music in Our Schools Month, we've invited some students and called Mr. Kane to tell us a little about music in the Canandaigua School District.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that introduction, and happy Music in Our Schools Month to everybody. As Jamie mentioned, yes, March is Music in Our Schools Month, not just something we celebrate in Canandaigua, but certainly a national thing and stuff that happens at school districts all over the country. As Jamie also just shared, we have just so much to be proud of in Canandaigua, and I was thinking about what to share tonight, and a couple of things sort of jumped to my mind to share, because if you know me, you know I could talk all night about this. But when I think about our mission statement, the one thing I wanted to talk about tonight is this. The second half of our opening paragraph says that we're dedicated to creating an accessible and an inclusive environment for all students. A couple of years ago, we finished another program review, and some of the outcomes of that are really alive and happening very well. I just want to talk about a couple of those points right now. But the thing that got me thinking is that if each of us were to lean over to one another and talk about what we value in music, because everybody values something in music, chances are you would both agree and strongly disagree with somebody next to you about like what makes good music, right? And I think it's very much true the same with our students, right? And one of the things that I'm proud of with our department is that so many department conversations have been surrounding the topic of making music culturally relevant. What kind of music are our students listening to at home? What are they exposed to at home? How can we connect the home and school connection so that we're not just teaching the stuff that we think we should have been taught? In fact, what we're finding is from our youngest learners, some of the songs that we all might take for granted and here kids don't even really know anymore. Just my wife was just telling me that Itsy Bitsy Spider, like an entire classroom did not know these. I know, I was like, whoa, that's fun. So, as things are shifting and changing and what people are listening to, being exposed to is changing, we're doing our best to accommodate and adapt to that in school. I don't think any one part of our program better is more emblematic of that change than the new course we have at the Academy called Modern Band. That has been, in my time at CA, just such a quick transformation of our entire music wing. But Sean Perry, our high school choral director, proposed this to CIE a couple years ago, or a year ago, excuse me, and the enrollment it completely filled up the first half of the year, and it's almost close to capacity the second half. And we're knocking on the door next year trying to maybe even expand it to another section. So kids are learning guitar and they're learning piano and drum set. Now, if you know where my office is, it happens to be right next to the practice rooms at CA. And I can attest to this, they have never been used more. And it's loud drum sets and heavy rock guitars. And in fact, oftentimes kids coming out of lunch just to get together with their friends to make rock music, which couldn't be more culturally relevant for them. Another thing I wanted to share would just be the accessibility part, something that makes me so proud in Canada, and I hope each of you are proud of this as well. But our elementary school is unique in one way. Kids have access to ensembles during the school day. It's something that hasn't been easy over the years, but it continues and it's been maintained as part of a child's school day, and it makes just a world of difference. It means that no child has to depend upon a personal transportation to get to school or sacrifice recess or lunch or anything like that. That's just such an important thing for me to mention and bring up tonight, and extend my thanks and gratitude for all the people who do make that work. I also wanted to say that in terms of scheduling, something must be going right at the middle school, because by the numbers, we have 340 kids just in chorus this year. That's just chorus, yeah. This is just an unbelievable number of students in choir at our middle school this year. A couple other program highlights. Drum Club at the elementary school is something that has been building up steam and momentum. It was such a popular opportunity for kids this year. I want to thank and recognize my colleague Jenny Medler. They didn't have enough room, they didn't have enough drums to keep everybody after school. She's opened up another section on her own time before school on Friday mornings. Kids are coming in early who have that option to do so. Another huge choir monumental achievement. There's fourth grade choir this year went from half the year in fourth grade, and then the other half, it went to full year this year due to a scheduling change. And it's unbelievable, we have 125 kids doing full year of fourth grade choir, which is really, really cool. It's gonna inspire that next generation. And then another cool thing that I wanted to share, but at CA, we just finished the application process, and perhaps Matt Schraggy's talked about some of this, but the application is in with New York State to become a school that can offer the IAAP, which is the Individual Arts Assessment Pathway, so kids can get like sort of an endorsement on their diploma to say that they are a music kid, or if there's going to be an art one as well. I'm really excited about that. I think that's going to be a really cool opportunity, certainly for some of the students here. Across the program, ensemble seats, 1,750 right now, from grades 4 through 12. Some of those kids count twice, obviously, but that's what my latest spreadsheet told me, which is just it's a humbling number to think that many kids are choosing to be a part of our program. So, as Jillian just mentioned, most recently our high school musical went up this weekend, and I want to thank some of these kids are running on fumes just like myself. May have fallen asleep at the dinner table last night, but I learned this morning that, as some of you may know, we condensed it for a lot of good reasons. We condensed it to one weekend, and believe it or not, in just 4 shows, there were 250 more attendees than last year's 2-weekend 6-show model. So that was a really joyful and very tiring transition for this year, but kudos to everybody involved in that. Coming up this month, Wednesday, we've got a concert with our, and I think that Canandaigua does this so well in every area of programming, but nobody inspires young kids better than older kids. And this Wednesday, we've got a wind ensemble concert with a side-by-side experience with our 5th graders. So they're going to share the stage together, they're going to play pieces together. We already had our district orchestra concert, which obviously achieves the same goal. Thursday of this week, we have our 8th grade choir, who's going to be joining our Academy mixed choir for another side-by-side experience. So we really are actively targeting all those 5-go-6 and 8-go-9 transition areas there, just to try and keep everything going. So, all right, I talked enough about all that, but I just also want to say that none of that happens in isolation. I mean, it's really important to recognize all the leadership in our buildings that supports what we do. They work with us even when it's hard. And certainly all of you that support our programs in so many different ways. All the way down to our custodial staff who, you know, at the elementary school really make it happen every single day. So thanks to them. So yeah, if nobody has any questions, I've got a crew here who has been working on a piece, and as part of the band sort of curriculum, everybody goes to Solo Festival, the dreaded Solo Festival. But as a senior, when you arrive, we give students the option to do some chamber music, which is when they get to perform pieces with other people. And they can choose to go and get a group adjudication, perform for their colleagues, or these guys don't know this yet, but I think this is gonna check the box for them tonight, because they've been working on a piece of music, several different pieces of brass music. And all these guys are seniors, with the exception of our foreign exchange student here, Gonzalo, who is technically in like American 10th grade here. But they have a piece of music that they've been working on called Bill Bailey, Won't You Please Come Home? I think you'll enjoy this. It's sort of like a vaudeville ragtime thing. So I'll just make a couple little adjustments here, bring them up here, you guys play a couple notes and we'll get stack up and we'll hear what they have to say. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, Walter's gonna kick us off.
We asked for an encore, is that not? That was amazing. You can't imagine how it feels to us to sit this close to you. I feel like I'm on asked for your autograph. That was really spectacular. Thank you so much.
Could we have introductions?
Yes, please. Walter, you want to start out and tell us who you are? Maybe you're all seniors, I think, so just.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Walter Marshall. I played trombone with the wind ensemble there, but this is not my main instrument. Piano is my main instrument, and in fact, I am planning on pursuing music education and piano performance in college.
I'm Gonzalo. I'm from Spain and same student this year. I'm in 10th grade. I know what I want to do for college.
You got some time.
Yeah.
Hi, I am Joshua McKay. I play the French horn primarily, and next year I'm going to be in RIT for microelectronic engineering, and I'm hoping to pursue French horn while I'm there.
I'm Hunter Crystal. I'm also a senior, and I also play French horn.
My name is Jeremy Loblaw. Trumpet is my primary instrument, but I also dabble in piano and drum set. And next year I plan to pursue finance.
I'm Miriam Tricomi. Trumpet is my primary instrument, and I'm planning to pursue music therapy.
And there's a concert Wednesday night that might be featuring something special.
Yeah, I
Can you
don't want
mention that,
to.
or-
I don't want to detract away from everybody else, but Walter,
Okay.
there's really an exceptional thing taking place Wednesday. Walter last year approached me about composing a piece for wind ensemble, and it's amazing. It's just to compose a piece for wind ensemble is not exactly like writing a single melody line because it's a score this big, and it's for basically 29 or 26 different parts. And yeah, he worked with retired Canadian teacher Tom Davis as sort of a mentor over the summer, and he brought it to me in the fall. We worked on it together, cleaned it up, and passed it out. And yeah, the world premiere is Wednesday night. And the other really exciting thing is I passed it along to my colleagues up at the Eastman Community Music School and the Eastman Community Music School Music Educators Wind Ensemble, which is all a bunch of music teachers from the Rochester area. They're also going to perform his piece. And that performance is ironically taking place in Bloomfield next month. So they just read it for the first time last night. So this guy's out there in the wild. Which is great.
Thank you so much again. You are welcome to stay, but you're also welcome. Nice to meet everybody. Greg, thank you for everything.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, parents, for coming.
Sorry, Matt. You can't follow that.
If they
Like-
would include music.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Yes.
Everything is now a tough act. Here we go. We have a transportation bond resolution. I will ask for motions, please. Julianne, and a second, Jenny. Questions or comments? Whenever you're ready, please step.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Palomini?
Yes.
Dr. Schneider?
Yes.
Ms. Tessendor?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grow?
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. And a second, which is for the transportation proposition. I'll ask for motions. Julianne and Jenny. Questions or comments? Whenever you're ready, please step.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Palomini?
Yes.
Dr. Schneider?
Yes.
Ms. Tessendor?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grow?
Yes. Thank you. Here you are. I didn't know why I like that, right?
Good evening.
Hi, Matt.
I think I'm going to petition the federal government to move this Music and Education Month to every year I get up here and stand in front of you after our students do something amazing, and each year it gets better, and there's nothing I can really compete with. So we'll go through the first draft of the budget. You know, obviously we went through the building department, sort of set up the outline at last meeting. We'll just look at the tax levy history, what's really driving the budget, some staffing updates, and really where our budget status and reserves are, and what our next steps are. So tax cap, as we talked about at the last board meeting, the cap this year is 2.73%. It's a little bit lower than it has been in recent years, and we're recommending to go out at 2.73%. You'll see that we've never exceeded the tax cap, as you're all aware. We've either been under it or at it each year of the history of the cap. Obviously, if we need to go above the calculated cap, we need a 60% supermajority to pass the budget. Budget drivers. On the revenue side, foundation aid, two different stories here. One is, we're getting a 1% foundation aid increase. We're hold harmless, save harmless, however you wanna interpret that, meaning that we are now funded higher than what the state calculation is. Okay, so the formula has a calculation, the payment that we're receiving is higher than what that calculation actually is. So, majority of schools in the state are now in hold harmless, and so the governor has proposed a 1% increase for any school that is on hold harmless. The law states that we have to remain at at least the same level we were the previous year. The Senate and Assembly have both come out with their one House budget bills this past week. They both are recommending a 2% increase. So some years we'll see a governor, proposal of 1%, and the Senate and Assembly might come in and say 4%. We can anticipate something much higher. At 2%, we're getting between 1% and 2%, right? That's the ceiling. The year-to-year increase from state budget will be 1%. What we're seeing in our budget to budget is a 2.86% increase. And you may recall last year when we presented and adopted our budget, we said there is not a state budget. And the state did not adopt their budget on time. It was significantly late. And so when all the schools were required to adopt their budgets, we didn't actually have the final state aid numbers. So what this incorporates is that 1.86% is the additional foundation aid that the state gave us last year after everything was done. So from budget to budget, that's good news for us, in that from budget to budget, we're seeing a 2.86% increase of, or $683,000. That 1% that we're getting from year to year, that probably is what we're gonna start seeing in the future, if at all that high, is about $243,000. All other state aid categories, we have increasing by almost $870,000. And part of that, I want to go through some of those are for special education. About $325,000 of that are for special education placements, for reimbursement for increased costs. We have an increase, our homeless student population has spiked in the recent years and has stayed relatively flat. And so we now can count on revenue that we receive from the state for homeless students. That's about an $85,000 increase. BOCES and transportation aid are going to be higher due to, again, increased costs. And there's about a $200,000 increase for the early college access coaster, which I'll get into in a slide in the future. The last thing is that the UPK funding is recommended to increase from $5,550 to $10,000 per student. That's a major increase that we've not seen in the past. And both one House bills came out last week. They both supported that. What this does is the UPK grant is its own separate grant in the federal fund. But what that will do is we spend about $180,000 to $190,000 a year on UPK in our general fund because the grant does not cover it. What that will do is we would be able to move the funds from the general fund into that grant. Of course, we can't do that yet because we don't have an adopted budget to say that they're definitely doing that. If we did that, and then they came back and said, we're not doing that this year, we're stuck holding, that additional cost without a budget number. So those are really the budget drivers on the revenue side. So overall, when we look at the budget increases, the 2.73% increase on the tax levy is about $1,479,000. Pilots and penalties, an increase of about $64,000. There's one small pilot that's coming onto the books, and then there's one pilot that's been renegotiated that causes that slight increase. State aid, about $1.5 million. It's the, from the previous slide, the expense-based aids and foundation aid that I covered before. Medicaid, we're continuing to try to maximize our Medicaid reimbursements. Our administrative team and our staff have been really working hard on that, and we're starting to see an increase in that. So a $45,000 increase. And then all other revenue, $375,000. And that's really, again, going to go because of the early college access coaster, and I will cover that in full. And then the last piece is as we're starting our capital project, the $70.3 million capital project, we have an increase in expense for that project. The way this is designed is that the first year of the project, we're going to spend funds, and there's not going to be any state aid. So we have a debt service fund that we're going to use to offset that. increase in costs. So that's an increase of $555,000. So overall, from year to year, we're increasing by $4,072,000 as of this date. Staffing changes, we have, last time we went through, there were 8 different recommendations. We had 2 included in the budget. That was a special education teacher and a teaching assistant. Those have been removed from the budget. We've really worked with the administrative team in many meetings over the last few weeks, really determining what staffing we have available. And we've been able to, it's been determined that at this point, we believe we can cover those with current staffing. So the additional increase is a 0.5 speech teacher. This is going to cover, right now we have a contract with an individual who's covering our St. Mary's speech needs, which is about $30,000. So this half-time speech teacher will be able to cover that expense and also be able to cover some additional needs within the district for an estimated about $20,000 increase overall. And then a reduction of 1 elementary teacher due to attrition. So overall, a half-time 0.5 FTE reduction. Budget drivers on the appropriation side. We're seeing, obviously, we talked about last meeting, the large increase in our health insurance. Active health insurance is 15.3%. That's the consortium-wide number. So depending on what plan you're on, it's not our actual increase percentage, but a 15.3% in the actual plan cost from year to year. In over 65 plans, this is estimated, but we're estimating on January 1 that increase will be 80% for going forward. Overall, that increase is about $1.7 million. And we're also seeing an increase to the employees' retirement system, going from 16.5% contribution rate for every dollar that we pay to 17.6%. And then salaries, we're seeing an overall increase of just over $700,000. The revitalization project that we discussed earlier, as I mentioned, we'll see an increase the first year of that increase in expenses from year to year. We'll also see the increase in our revenue side as we'll use the debt service fund to offset that. And then in future years, that increase will be covered by state aid, so the local contribution stays relatively flat from year to year. This is new for this year, and I really wanted to explain it because it's a little confusing. So you may be aware of the BOCES Early College Access Coaster. This is a coaster that the state has approved and our BOCES has joined, and it's been a lot of back and forth this year, and so much so that we really haven't had the final information until the last couple weeks. But essentially what this is, it's designed to allow schools to expand our student access to dual credit courses, to college courses, and trying to expand it to all students, right? Not just maybe our highest achieving students, but really any student that might have an interest in a college course to get sort of access to those courses. And really looking, I think the overall goal from the state is looking regionally to see how much we can expand, for an entire region. That's way off in the future, but this is the piece where we're seeing it this year. And the way this works is we have our expenses for our staff that we can charge to BOCES for running the coaster. So we'll bill BOCES. BOCES will then bill us back, and because they're billing us back as being part of that coaster, we get aid on it. So it's really a lot of accounting to it, but essentially in next year's budget, we'll see a $425,000 increase in our budget for this program. We'll see a $425,000 increase in our revenue from our payment from BOCES, and we'll also see a $200,000 increase in BOCES aid. So overall, we'll see a $200,000 increase, but it is driving the budget up pretty significantly, and so I really thought it was important that we discussed why that was happening and had a general understanding of that program. On the expense side of the budget, at this point we present it in 3 parts: administrative, everything you typically think of administration, all administrators, their staff, anything within district office, our support staff. Overall, that's increasing to $7,492,000, or about $137,000 increase from year to year. On the program side, that's gonna be the majority of our budget. That's our teaching staff, our teaching support staff, anything you picture in a classroom, desks, chairs, books, and also, it also include transportation. That's gonna see the largest increase. You'll see that increasing to $75,212,000, or about $3,400,000. And you'll notice that the health insurance increase, the majority of that, since the majority of our staff is in program, the majority of that increase is gonna hit program. So it does affect that significantly. And then capital, that's gonna be any of our debt service, any of our utilities, which we are seeing large increases to, overall $757,000 increase from year to year. So overall, the budget, $97,736,277, so just over $4.3 million increase. And then you can see the percentages on the bottom of the percentage of the budget of each part of those, of our three parts. So overall, where we stand now, we have the budget that we just went over in the green, and then how is that covered? About 58% is covered by the tax levy, that 2.73% increase. Can't remember the exact number. 39% is state aid at $37,576,000. All other revenues at $2,662,000 make up about 2.78% of the budget. And then just under 2% is the appropriated reserves for this year. A little bit higher than what we've been at the last few years, but it's a number that we've been at in the last 10 years a couple of times. And then under 2% is still a relatively good number for a district and a budget our size. This is an example of how we would cover the expenses with our reserves. Really using our ERS, workers' compensation, unemployment, ABLAR, and tax certiorari reserve. So the tax levy of $55,584,000, the 2.73% increase. The appropriate reserves is $1,912,000, and we're projecting a tax rate of $14.22. That's assuming there's no growth in property values from year to year. This is the actual tax rate that we had, not this year, but the prior school year. So next steps, we wait on New York State budget. It's required to be approved on April 1st. We're hearing again that don't count on the budget adopting, the state adopting a budget on time this year again. So we'll see if they've adopted it when we are required to adopt. Our next board meeting would be April 13th, which is when we plan to adopt our budget. The budget hearing would be May 11th, and the budget vote May 19th. Any questions?
So, Matt, the BOCES Early College COSER, is this essentially pulling in all of the dual enrollment for FLCC and that and expanding it?
So currently, the goal will be to hopefully expand it, hopefully to expand the students participating in it, hopefully expand the courses that we're offering. Currently, it's the current courses we offer with the students attending, and maximizing the aid as being part of it.
So is there a list of potential courses that our staff could teach that would expand that, or?
Yes, so FLCC has a list of courses. I know some of our departments have been eager to look at MCC for courses. We also have Project Lead the Way as part of that. And the other piece of this is, as you may know, this year students were not required to pay for any of their college graduate courses. That's because of this COSER. The district covering that expense allows us to be part of it, and then we can get some aid on that expense.
Great, thanks.
Welcome.
This is probably our last year. You're going out with a bang. It will be under $100 million.
Likely. Yeah, scary.
Yeah. We can tell you that during your 20+ years in this board, we never went over $100 million.
That will be my
As soon as you left, bam, we went out the window.
Two quick questions. One was, right at the beginning, you said that the number of the homeless students
have been spiked and then have been flat. Is that a number or percentage of our population?
Number of students, we range, do you recall, is it between, yeah, I was gonna say between 80 and 100 students a year that are classified as homeless.
Okay.
We're the second most homeless students in all of Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES, the 25 total districts.
In number,
In number.
do we know where we are as percentage?
I don't, but I think we're still towards the top. I mean, we had that, we looked at the data, and I did share that with the board last week, but if we look at the percentage, it would definitely be in the upper half. And that would be very hard to find at all.
Yeah.
That was my question too on that. You know, we're a bigger district for Wayne Finger Lakes, so I understand that it isn't good news in any form.
No.
But where are we in percentage of students that are homeless, not just homeless?
But meanwhile, though, the state funding around, the homeless student designation is based on your number, not your percentage, so that's why we focus on that as well.
Are there cut levels to that?
I think it's per student, there's a
Yeah.
factor per student.
Right, and they go through what we call stacking, because a student may not be homeless for the entire year, they may be only homeless for part of a year.
Thank you.
So we're proposing to take out nearly $2 million from reserves. So what does that leave us in our
So our
undedicated reserves?
Yep, so our reserves that are not dedicated for capital, projects is about $10 million in total, which is a solid number for where we are right now. Makes, it's 10% approximately of our budget. I think the federal guidance is about 15% would be recommended. But we're in a good spot right now. But once we really start using those reserves, it'll become very difficult to get off those.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you.
I'm just looking at the homeless data based on the question of the percentage. It's just the eyeball test, again, I didn't break out my calculator and do the math, because I don't have the school enrollment, but we have to be near the very top. There's very few, our 3-year average is 91. The only district that's ahead of us is Geneva at 147. Most of them are 20 and below. In terms of numbers of students, there's some that are a little higher, but most are in that lower range.
So, ballpark, where are we in terms of saying then relative size to Geneva or?
Geneva, I think, has 2,200 students, we're 3,100. Victor has 40, I think they might even be up to 4,500, 42 to 4,500. And their homeless number is, this is not in alphabetical order, so sorry. 41, we're 91, they have 41. Wayne is another one we often compare ourselves to. Let's see, what Wayne is.
Average
25, and they're about the same size as Geneva.
So you said Geneva's about 2,200, and we're about
3,100.
3,100.
Anything else?
Even, I'm sorry. Looking at Newark, they're at 79, they're the next closest to us. And Newark is about that 21 to 2,200 student range too. Sorry, okay, now it's not.
Okay. We have a consensus agenda and a supplemental. I'll ask for motions, please. Beth? No questions or comments? All in favor? It carries unanimously. Thank you. CIA, Beth or Jen? You good?
I can do it. Busy. We had so much to cover, and thank you as always, Matt, for getting it done in a timely fashion. First up was a textbook adoption for the 9th and 10th grade AP World, the textbook Worlds Together, Worlds Apart. We approved it. I didn't really have a choice. The class, the AP people say you have to get a new book every 10 years, so we get a new book every 10 years. Second was, and this was really, they did such a good job, it was really fun. It was a pilot that they've done at the, yeah, it wasn't primary school?
Yeah.
That was for super kids, and it's a reading thing, but it's with, kids that are, of different ethnicities and have different interests, and the dog gets involved, and they have these little plastic people that, they can pass around, and,
It's very engaging,
it's
right?
so, one of our funniest was, they had a boy who was fall leaf or something like that, and the other one was a girl who was it
We all have different ones.
Elsabath or something like that? They were fascinating, and they have stories that go with it, they have a backstory, so kids can tell you all about these kids. They, the fascinating part to me was they tested kids like before and after with this program, and the kids who did the so of course, you know, there were some that did the regular stuff and some that did this program, those kids improved by 100%. So as always, even if those numbers are off, they'd have to be off by so much for these kids not to have engaged. It's just so engaging, and they asked the teachers, both the ones that did the program and the ones that didn't, if they were interested in continuing it, and I think it was 100% of them said yes, they wanted to do it next year. So they're actually piloting it next year in grade 3. Or they're doing the program in grade 3 with new resources.
We'll do implementation in K2, or K1, excuse me, and then second graders into a version that we're waiting on.
Okay,
So-
that was second grade, yeah, cool. So anyways, it was a super fun presentation. Next was summer curriculum writing, and I'm gonna say this about both summer curriculum writing and the last thing we did, well, sort of last, was review of the district's continuity of instruction handbook. They said, like, to be able to put numbers and like a rubric with summer curriculum writing makes it feel like, as a district, we are just so responsible with a group of teachers present, they wanna do this for summer curriculum. Well, we actually have a rubric that says, are you gonna do this, and are you gonna do this, and how many people do you have, and how much time do you have, and this is what you're gonna get. So it kind of takes a little bit of the emotion out of it, but it's just really fascinating to me to always see how these groups that really could probably slide by are interested in coming up with new stuff and doing new things with their kids, and I just give them all the credit in the world. Kind of same thing, I love a phone that times out. Same thing with the district instruction, we all kind of talked about reviewing the document. It's just stuff that if we weren't on the committee, I wouldn't even know that they existed. And then of course, last but not least, is the professional learning update, those 50 professionals that are, or paraprofessionals that are doing the Teacher's Day, which I think now is in the past.
That's right.
And what a great job of having people do it earlier in the year and get that all done. So, like I said, busy, busy, busy. It was a very good meeting.
Excellent, thank you. Do you have anything else?
I do.
Jeannie, I did really quick math, and I'm not sure I wrote everything down correctly. So Victor is at 0.1%, we're at 2.8, Geneva is at 2.5, and I didn't get the numerator for Newark, just to give you an idea.
Geneva, they have to be higher than us, because they have less students and more homeless
Yeah,
students.
2.5, you said, right?
Yeah,
You said we were 2.8.
yeah, 91, 3,200 students, have I got that right?
We're 91, 3,100 students. Geneva has
3,100
147
And
homeless students
and
and about,
Geneva has 147?
and about 2,200 students.
And 2,200, so I did write that down backwards.
Yeah, that's definitely the highest by far.